Welcome to Cook with Joy. I'm Joy Kelly, and I'm so excited that you're watching my cooking show. Well, it's really a YouTube show, but it's a cooking show, and I hope it's becoming your favorite cooking show. Today, we're gonna make the best darn oatmeal that you have ever had, and you are gonna love, love, love what we do with it after we make the oatmeal. So watch what's ahead. Okay, this is a super easy recipe. We're just going to start with apple juice instead of water. And we're going to do that for two reasons. Remember, I always like to do two reasons. First thing is it tastes way better, and you don't have to add any sugar to it. You know how kids are always like dumping all that sugar on top? Well, if you make it with apple juice, you won't have to add sugar. So I've got 4 cups of apple juice in the bottom of this pan. Notice, please, that I used a liquid measuring cup on this one. And next we're going to add the oats. And you know, you can buy oats in bulk. I've got this great big package of them from Trader Joe's. We're going to add 3 cups of the oats to the 4 cups. So it's a little bit more liquid. So remember when we made rice, it's more liquid than rice. But with this, and actually it's the same thing. Duh, it's the same thing. Now I'm going to start boiling this right away, and I'm going to do that for a couple of reasons, because this is a really fast recipe, and as I start to boil it, once it's boiled, it's done. Most people overcook oatmeal, but all you have to do is bring it to a boil. In fact, you don't even need to cook oatmeal. You can soak oatmeal, and it cooks in about quote unquote cooks, in about a half an hour. Why are oats so good for you? Well, they help to lower cholesterol levels because they're so rich in soluble and insoluble fiber. They actually scrub the insides of your arteries and veins, and they keep you healthy. We're going to add a very deliberately measured cinnamon, not at all. It's not deliberately measured. I just put it in until it smells really good. And then we're going to do the same thing with some vanilla. Vanilla, every spice has healing properties to it. In fact, every food that smells a certain way has a healing property to it. The stronger the smell, usually the higher the healing property in it. Now I'm going to add about a handful of dried cranberries. I get these also at Trader Joe's. I love dried cranberries. They're great for urinary tract health, for bladder health, and we're just going to stir those in a little bit. When I first started making this recipe, that's all I did. That was it. Voila, I covered it. Once it boiled, it was done, and I said, good, that's fine. Then I had to get fancy, right? So I started adding chopped walnuts. Walnuts are great for brain health. I mean, all nuts are great for health. There's so many vitamin E and so many different vitamins that are in them. If you notice about walnuts, they're shaped like a little brain. Did you ever notice that? And a lot of people think that the shape that a food has reflects the organ in your body that it's good for. I don't know if that's true, but you can start thinking about it. Carrots, when you cut them, they look like an eye. Carrots are great for eye health. The walnut thing, the kidney beans are supposed to be great for your kidneys, and they happen to be shaped like a kidney. So there's a whole thing on it if you want to Google it. I'm going to chop these up pretty finely. I'm a person that likes little tiny flavors all mixed together. So I don't know if you're like that. If you're not and you like the whole piece, then don't cut them up so small. But I'm cutting them up small, and then I'm going to add those to my mixture. I'm going to stir that a little bit, and it's already boiling, so I know that this is almost done. I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to also add some apple, and I'm going to add some fresh nutmeg. Nutmeg is a hidden gem, and if you make it fresh, and I would have done that with the cinnamon sticks too, but I didn't have any. I asked my husband to get some from the grocery store. Did he? No, he did not. So I don't have fresh cinnamon, but I do have fresh nutmeg. And what I like to do is use, you might think this is a cheese grater. This is not a cheese grater. This is a nutmeg grater. I'm just going to put that over the top, and I'm going to grate fresh nutmeg into the oatmeal. This is so yummy and so good for you, but I think I almost dropped that into, that would not be good, a whole nutmeg in the oatmeal. I would not like that, and I don't think you would either. So, you know, you can just kind of do that by eye. We're going to stir it up. It's really starting to bubble, so I need to turn that down even more. The last thing I want to add is I want to add some apple. And once again, this is an option. Now, I have an apple that has the bottom of it bad. Now, you've heard me say before that you shouldn't use food that you don't want to eat right now. The apple is an exception to that because apples can be stored for up to 10 years and retain their nutrient content. Now, I am going to peel it because I don't want that apple peel in it. And I should probably get out a peeler. That would probably be a lot easier, right? Because I don't want the apple peel in it. Some people like it and it's higher in nutrient content, but I don't particularly like how it tastes in the actual oatmeal. And I think you'll find that your family likes it better too. And you see how neat I am with my apple peels here. And I'm gonna cut it in half. Usually when I do this, I'm just gonna use a half an apple, but because I cut the whole bottom off of it, and I wanted to show that to you, I am going to use that whole apple. I'm going to take the seeds out. A lot of seeds of plants are edible and they're actually really good for you. That's not true with an apple. It has cyanide, a relative of the cyanide family in it, and you don't want to eat that. So make sure you get the apple seeds out. All the stuff around the seeds are really good for you, but not the seeds themselves. My mom used to pride herself on eating the core, the apple core down to the very seeds, and all that would be left would be the apple seeds. I remember that. We're going to cut this up once again kind of finely, but you can do it to taste, and you don't have to have them be perfect little cuts. They can just kind of be a mess. So now what we've got is we've got oatmeal that makes a really delicious breakfast, and of course I'm going to add, when I serve oatmeal, I don't want to put any sugar on it at all, and that's why I cook it with the apple juice. But I do want to add, I look at almost every meal as how is this a delivery system for more fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to use the oatmeal and I'm going to dump just a ton of fresh blueberries, fresh strawberries, fresh raspberries. In fact, let me see if I have some in the fridge right now. I know I do. I'll be right back. Yay, I did. I had some blueberries and raspberries in the fridge. These are fresh, they're washed already. So what I'm going to do is, if I'm just making this for one person, it's all ready to go. Did you see how fast that was? That was amazing. So we're just going to load that up. So I'm going to put the blueberries and the raspberries over the top. Just yum, 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 yum. You could even add, if you had some fresh mango, that would be delicious too. Some people want to add a little maple syrup to it. I don't need it, but I always keep it on hand in case someone does. But look at what a delicious, delicious breakfast that is. I love, love, love starting my day this way, and I think you will too. But now I'm going to show you what you can do with all that oatmeal that's left over, because there's always oatmeal left over, right? Your family never eats it all. So what do you do with all the leftover oatmeal? You're going to be amazed. We have this great big pan of leftover oatmeal, and you coax your family, you try to get them to eat it, and they won't. So you end up dumping it. And if you're like me, I grew up in the Midwest without much money, and I felt very wasteful doing that. So I discovered this great way to reuse oatmeal. First, we're going to start with a loaf pan. A loaf pan, you say? Yes, a loaf pan. And we're going to press the oatmeal into the loaf pan, and we're going to make oatmeal bread that's going to become French toast. What we want to do is spray the bottom of it, and I want to show you this. This is olive oil spray, which is awesome, but it says on the outside that there's no oil in it. Where does it say that? On one of these it says oil-free. On the back, if you look at it, it says it has no fat in it whatsoever. And you're like, what are the ingredients? It says 100% olive oil. How is that even possible? How can it not have any oil in it? Well, the reason is because they say here that a serving is 1/3 of a second. So everybody get ready and count 1/3 of a second. That's 1/3 of a second. I mean, I don't even know how that's possible. But anyway, we're going to spray the whole pan, our little fat-free olive oil, right? And then this is so easy. We're just going to put all of the oatmeal into the loaf pan very neatly. See how neatly it is? Oatmeal really congeals fast. It still smells really good. And I'm just so happy that I don't have to waste the oatmeal. And oh, by the way, I use the dried cranberries, but if you wanted to use raisins or any other kind of dried fruit, you could use anything that you wanted. If you wanted to use a different nut besides walnuts, you could use almonds, you could use cashews, and you're going to get a different flavor with everything that you do. I think you could also do this with quinoa, but I'm not sure. I have never done it with quinoa, and I don't know if it would hold together as well. So stay tuned, because you're going to be with me for a few hours, and I'll think of some stories or something to tell you why this is setting up. And then we will turn it into our little French toast. And you are going to, this is going to become a staple, I'm sure. This is going to become a staple of yours, especially if you have more than one person in your family that eats breakfast in the morning. And if you don't, you probably want to cut this recipe in half and just make half of it. So here you go. We've got the whole thing. See how it even looks like bread? And now all we're gonna do is put it in the fridge, we're gonna cover it, and ideally you would let it sit overnight, but I don't think you guys wanna watch this show overnight. so we're gonna just let it sit in the fridge for a little while, and then we're gonna tap it out, cut it into slices, and bake it, and have another breakfast tomorrow with this exact same dish. Isn't that awesome? And it's really fun, isn't it? Especially when you're cooking with me. That's why we call this Cook with Joy. Okay, so I'm hoping that this worked. Usually I leave this overnight. Let's see if it actually works. This has been for a few hours in the fridge. Looks pretty good. So the trick is we gotta get this out of the pan in a whole loaf. When I first started doing this, I just dumped the pan up on top of a cutting board, but I learned a trick that you put the cutting board on top of the pan and then you flip it hard and you tap it that way. Is that loud enough for you? Oh my gosh, it turned out! Yay! Look at that! It's beautiful! So now we're gonna cut it into slices and put it onto a cookie sheet. And once again, I'm gonna use parchment paper. I could use a silicone sheet here too. Silicone is easy, parchment paper is easy, but the big thing is that we don't want to use oil for two reasons. So two reasons. One is we don't want to have the added fat, and number two, this just cleans up a lot better. We want to cut these slices, first of all, with a serrated knife, because basically, this is like a loaf of bread, and we want to make them thin enough. Well, you might find that you like them thicker. My husband kind of likes them thicker, but I like them a little bit thinner. They get kind of crunchy, and we're just going to line them up on the cookie sheet. This is such a clever idea. I just love, love, love this. So we're just lining them up, and the idea that you can reuse this and you're still getting the same nutritional value, and you should get an entire cookie sheet full. Now obviously the thinner you cut them, the more you're going to get, but the hardier they're going to be, the thicker they are. So I actually ended up kind of going in between. I'm amazed that this came out of the pan as well as it did. After it was only in the fridge for a couple of hours. So that's pretty cool. I'm really happy to know that. I don't know how long it takes oatmeal to settle in your pan. You know, it seems like it happens right away, that it's already glue by the time you walk away. I think what I'll have to do is squish them all a little bit closer together. So we're gonna drop these in the oven. I'm gonna put them in at about 400, and you know, how long should you cook them till they're done? It's probably gonna be about 10 to 15 minutes. So let's put those in. Voila! I can't wait to see how it turns out. Oh my gosh, these smell so good. Now you could make them a little crispier if you wanted to, have them be a little bit browner on top if you wanted them to be. My husband kind of likes them that way, but they're perfect like this. And the magic of these is that if you don't eat them all today, like you didn't finish the oatmeal yesterday, you don't finish these today, you can keep them in the fridge and you can actually put them in the toaster tomorrow or the next day, and you can have them as little energy bars. What I like to do is put them on a little plate like this, and my husband likes to have like 3 or 4 of these. He's kind of hungry for them. And then you can put whatever you want on top. You can use some peanut butter, some honey, some maple syrup, maybe just some berries. One of my favorite things to do is to take frozen mangoes, frozen blueberries, raspberries, whatever berries I have, and use one of those little pulverizers and put a little maple syrup and some cinnamon and top it on top. It's like a compote, and it's to die for. So there you have it, 3 ways to use oatmeal. And that's why we call this the best darn oatmeal that you ever had. And I think you're gonna think so too. This is Cook with Joy, and I hope to see you next time.